Welcome to Point of View, NFL playoff preview. Well, I can't believe it with the virus and everything, especially with high contact for like football. They
Yeah.
did it. They made it all 17 weeks, and we're starting the playoffs on schedule.
Yeah. It should be good.
All right. So what was your thoughts on I know you don't have a team. What was your thoughts though on your local team, the Vikings' performance this year before we start?
Atrocious. They started 0-5, and then they started winning with a shot of making the playoffs. And usually I'm not one to sort of say just try to lose or something, anything like that. But the second they went 0-5, they should have tried to get in the sweepstakes with Trevor Lawrence. So I was disappointed in them doing that. And I knew they weren't going to make the playoffs. So the more victories they picked up, the lower in the draft are going to end up being picked. I'm still hoping they draft a quarterback. Maybe the kid from BYU falls, or the kid from Florida. I'm just done with Kirk Cousins. And yes, I understand it's not his fault, but that's not the type of quarterback you need to win a Super Bowl. And just because of all the Vikings, there's a lot of good things about this Vikings football team. The issue I have is the quarterback and some other stuff as well, but it's a good team, and we're not going to win with that quarterback. So I wanted – when they started so badly, they were 0-5. They were in basically the Trevor Lawrence conversation. And even if you don't get Lawrence, just get into the top 5 so you can get one of these quarterbacks. So I was disappointed in that, but they did show that they have qualities after they started getting in gear. I'm hoping Trey Lance falls down to whatever it is. I think it's 11, so the Vikings can take him there. But bad season, and they went on the run, and now they're out of basically position to draft any of these franchise guys, which is unfortunate. And I doubt they're going to draft a quarterback, and they'll probably do some stupid stuff in the draft. But I loved Jefferson. Jefferson was unbelievable. I think he was an outstanding pick. It looks like, and he's been amazing. So there's definitely positive things to look out for. But I wasn't really pleased with the season at all.
Mike Zimmer, should he be fired?
Yes, come on. I mean, yeah, we've done this thing over and over and over again. I don't know who you get in replacement of him, but you just can't sit with the same thing over and over again. And I do think he's a good coach. I think he deserves a job at some point, but I think he's done as much as he could with this team, and he's just not good enough anymore for the Vikings to take that next step. And I think they're a good enough team. And yeah, it's just unfortunate, but it is time to go for Zimmer.
All right, so before we get into the good, we got to go into the bad first. The Jacksonville Jaguars were probably one of the worst teams I've seen. If they didn't, I mean, people don't realize their only win was in Week 1 as well.
Yeah.
So they had a very high chance of going 0-16 if they didn't have that one little blip on the radar.
Yeah.
But they do get the rewards. Do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to a good spot?
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a similar, if not better, season than Justin Herbert, and I like Justin Herbert. Trevor Lawrence, I understand that he's split Clemson. He's with all these great players, and I understand that. But he's just so talented for individually himself, taking them to again, it's going to be tough for the next couple of years. But I think they can make the playoffs within a couple of seasons with him if he is as good as I think he is. There's always a chance he isn't, but when you think of all these guys who they've like named as franchise-changing players or like best college prospects since whatever, it's been like Andrew Luck, it's been Joe Montana, it's been John Elway. Those are the names that have been attached when everyone is sort of on the same side of this guy's going to be a superstar. And even if you look at the loan, Andrew Luck was when he played was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I'm pretty sure at worst he'll be a Pro Bowler, regular, and at best he'll be the best quarterback in football within a short period of time. So I think he can throw. I don't know what I'll say at the time, but right now I think he can throw 35 touchdowns his first season, and I think he'll take the Jacksonville Jaguars to 5 wins.
All right, that's really.
I just don't think the reason it's not more is because I just don't think the other pieces around him are good enough. They do have a lot of cap space, so I'll have to see who they bring in. But I think Trevor, regardless of where he gets drafted, he gets you an extra couple wins just because he's just that type of player.
So you mean at minimum, there's no way he'll be anything less than Matt Ryan, in your opinion?
Yeah, he at the very worst, he'll be like a 5-time Pro Bowler, something like that. Matt Ryan, a guy who's gonna maybe win a outlier MVP like Cam and Matt Ryan did, but he won't be. I think Andrew Luck is actually a good scenario. That's at worst he'll be Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck could have been so much more if it wasn't for betrayal of the front office and injuries and stuff like that, and that's why he retired so young. But if they support him, if he's not under siege his first couple of years, and the good thing about Jacksonville is they have a good offensive line. As horrible as they are everywhere else, they're pretty decent there. So I don't think he'll be thrown to the ground all the time. So because of that, I think he has a good chance of sitting back there and just throwing darts.
All right. Now on to the team that ruined their chance for him, the Jets, Jets. Where do they go from here? And we all saw how big of a monster Devontae Smith has become.
Yeah.
And this is a legit question. Sam Darnold is not atrocious as a quarterback.
No, he's not.
You have the opportunity, and you know how you said – Trevor Lawrence ceiling is like we're at the very worst in Andrew Luck. I think you look at a guy like Devontae Smith, the very worst you'll get out of him is like a Torrey Holt career. Yeah. I think he's that special.
Yeah.
Now, do you take him number 2 overall? Because, and I'm looking at it like a situation. This could be like how the Lions. I know it didn't help them much, but the Jets actually have like a serviceable quarterback. How the Lions took Calvin Johnson. You know. When they could have had Brady Quinn or something else. Do you almost have to take him?
This is what I believe. I believe the Jets will trade their number 2 pick. They have an avalanche they have like 10 draft picks. There's going to be certain teams that will try to go up and get up to 2 or in that area to get Justin Fields or the one from BYU. There's going to be a quarterback. Someone is going to move up in this draft. I'm looking at San Francisco because I think they're done with Jimmy G. Unless you can get Matt Ryan, I haven't done my full mock draft yet. I think it's highly likely that the 49ers will trade up for number 2 and draft Justin Fields. And with that, the Jets will get an avalanche of picks. But they'll work on their other issues. And I think you got to give Sam Darnold one shot to at least be something because Gates is gone. The team is not good, but you have all these draft picks. You can go in the free agent market and maybe get something. I think you got to give him one more run. And if it doesn't work, you're going to have picks on top of the picks you already have. You probably get a first round from next year. So, and I don't know if it's Detroit might trade up, but I think they're high enough in the draft where they could draft another quarterback. No one's getting Trevor Lawrence other than Jacksonville, but they could get Justin Fields could fall, Trey Lance could go up, the kid from BYU could go somewhere. So I think there's a collection right there. They're too far back. But if Shanahan wants to build a new team and Jimmy's gone and have someone who can come in and make a similar impact to the way Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert made in their rookie years, I think it's highly likely that the 49ers will trade up. If it's not the 49ers, I think Detroit's a possible team that can trade up. And there's others that might be interested in that. If they keep the pick, I would just take the best player available. And I don't think it necessarily should be based on position. So if they have the number 2 pick, I would take the very best player on the board and not be forced to take a quarterback at number 2 when his prospect level is like the 10th pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I'd still take Smith. So if they don't take him, the Dolphins are going to take him. Yeah. And by the way, I want to talk about the Dolphins really quick.
Watch out for the Miami. Think if Justin Fields drops, I'm not saying it's happening, but the Miami might draft a quarterback. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're thinking like a Josh Rosen situation.
Was better than Josh Rosen. He has flashes, but I think it's if you're sitting there and let's say the Jets take the offensive lineman from Oregon, and then I can't even think of the names off the top of my head, but the next couple picks and Fields is sitting there. There's going to be in that room, they're going to have a discussion about potentially drafting him because they saw what they saw from Tua. Because my thing is, you either when you look at a prospect and you go into the draft and you see them play, you know very early if they have what it takes or they don't, right? And it was very early with Josh Rosen. You knew he didn't have what it takes. It was you could say you looked at Mitch Trubisky and he's not terrible, but you knew he wasn't a franchise guy. You looked at it, and then you see 2 weeks of Joe Burrow, 2 weeks of Joe Burrow, and 2 weeks of Justin Herbert's, and it's like boom, we got our guy. Because I think Cincinnati and the Chargers are both completely happy with what they got. I think Burrow I really liked a lot, and I think he's going to have a really outstanding career as well. But it's like with Tua, you didn't see that moment where it's like I feel I can it's completely justified that I took this guy. So I think it's possible to take one. I personally, and I'm sure we'll do another episode closer to the draft, but I personally I like Trey Lance more than Justin Fields, personally, from just a prospect's point of view. And I get the fancy stats and everything else that Justin Fields does and an incredible career and all that stuff. But I rate Lance higher than Fields. But again, if Miami's sitting there and Fields is there available, they might consider pulling that plug because Tua is going to be a decent quarterback, but he doesn't seem like a franchise guy. And if he was, I think it would be more obvious by now.
Man, I don't know. That's hard. But people don't realize, like, Fitzpatrick is the one that kept him in the playoff race.
Yeah, I'm not saying they do it.
I mean,
But they're going to have a conversation if he's still on the board.
Yeah. All right. To a little bit better, Justin Herbert. Wow.
Yeah.
What a rookie year.
Incredible.
I mean, and, people always say, oh, the Chargers can't draft. The Chargers have actually had one of the better histories of drafted QBs, from Dan
Rivers and Herbert. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, but they always look at the big one. Oh, they don't know how to draft quarterbacks. But,
Yeah.
I mean, this team can't actually draft a quarterback when it's evaluated right.
Mm-hmm.
Are my Chiefs in trouble in the next few years?
I mean, I'd be more concerned with a dude playing in Buffalo, but I think in the division, you certainly have someone. He's special. I'll be honest with you, and I know he just won Rookie of the Year. I really like Burrow, I know Herbert and Burrow I think are pretty close in terms of talent evaluation. He's someone that I think that next year could have a similar season to what he had, and I think if you looked at trajectory, he was on pace to having a 26 touchdown season, and so again, of the two, I like Burrow a little more, but Herbert's going to be a problem in that division, especially if they are able to sort of surround him with more weapons. And I'm not even talking about offense. You don't need to have a Tyreek Hill, a Kelsey, and others to sort of be an awesome team. If they just surround him with good pieces, and it's going to come down to who they hire as coach. That's a big job also. And if they hire a good coach and surround him with good pieces, you can certainly say that he's going to be an issue, not just for the division, but for other teams that are going to try to do some stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, me and you talked on the phone the other day. I'm going to disagree. I think the Chargers, you said the Texans have the best job available. I think it's the Chargers, honestly. They're a 7-win team with tons of pieces.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to control your own draft now, bring in who you want to be, who you want to play. I mean, that's hard, man. I mean, if I was any active head coach, now, like any coach looking for a job in the NFL, like, for example, the Chiefs offensive coordinator. Now, if I know this sounds crazy, okay, man? Absolutely crazy. But rivalries don't matter that much in the NFL.
Yeah.
If I was Eric Bieniemy with what I did with Patrick Mahomes, I'd want that Chargers job. 110%.
I mean, it's very enticing, but again, the Texans job has Deshaun Watson. I mean, you don't need to sell me anything else. I think the dude can play, and on a horrible team, he had a great season. I mean, if you're just talking statistically, he had a Pro Bowl level season. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. All you need is a competent head coach over there, and they could do something. No, I mean the Chargers it's been really between those two. It's between the Chargers and
Texans.
Yeah, Texans. Sorry, Chargers and Texans have the two best jobs. Jacksonville is a decent job also. It's not in comparison to those two, but you have Trevor Lawrence, you have a chance. So those are the big ones, and but it's between those two, and I think the only reason I favor the Texans job is I think right here, right now, I would rather have Deshaun Watson. But again, Justin Herbert could be something special. So he has something special, but he could become something incredible as well.
All right, well, let's get into it. Saturday, 12 o'clock Central Time. Probably your two favorite quarterbacks in the league going head-to-head, Josh Allen and Philip Rivers.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is I didn't even realize that was a matchup until recently. It's going to be awkward. I am gonna be supporting the Buffalo Bills in that match. I supported Philip Rivers from rookie, basically from when he became a starter all the way until he left the Chargers, and I support him this year as well with the Colts. But I'm going with the Bills here just because as Philip is probably playing maybe he plays another year, but maybe he doesn't. And Josh Allen's just getting started. And I need someone to cheer for when Philip Rivers retires. So I'm gonna go with the Bills. I hope it's a close game. I hope Philip at least plays well. I think the Colts are gonna have a real problem in terms of dealing with what the Bills can throw at them, and vice versa. But you want me to give a score prediction now, or do you want me to wait?
Go for it.
I'm gonna say the Bills win this 38-17. I think the Colts are a decent team. They deserve to be in the playoffs, but they just don't have the arsenal of weapons that Buffalo has. And what I mean by weapons is Josh Allen. It's not the fact that he can throw the football and he's got a rocket arm. It's the fact that he is, and maybe I'm a little biased here, but he can also run with the football, and he's breaking the mold that quarterbacks with accuracy coming into the league continue to have accuracy issues. His accuracy issues are getting better, and I saw him in an interview with Pat McAfee where he was talking about some sort of technology where he was basically his entire life was throwing the ball incorrectly and he wasn't even using his hips, and at that point he was already an incredible quarterback. So I'm gonna say the Buffalo Bills have a good defense. They have a good team. They're well coached. The Colts have probably one of the most underrated coaches in the league. And I think they keep this interesting, but I think the Bills will just have too much for the Colts really to challenge them in any way. But so I think Josh gets his first playoff win this Saturday.
Not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. I hear you. I get it's in Buffalo. Get Sean McDermott out there.
Fans are going to be in the stands too.
I trust Frank Reich more. We all know now he was the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson's a fraud.
Yeah. I can't believe what he did to Jalen Hurts. That's ridiculous.
We'll get into that later with Washington.
Yeah.
They have T.Y. Hilton and all. They have T.Y. Hilton. They have a solid defense. And
they have a good team.
I think Philip's going to go for it. And this may be egregious to some people. I'm going to take the Colts 31-28.
Not bad. Well, we'll see. Again, this is a win-win situation. If they win, if the Bills win, I can brag on how I saw this Josh Allen thing way before anybody else did. If the Colts win, I say Philip Rivers is the Hall of Fame. So it's a win-win. I would like the Bills to win, but and I'm gonna pick the Bills. But again, if the Colts win, it's okay.
All right, the next matchup that day, probably the least interesting. 3 o'clock, you got the Rams and the Seahawks.
I'll take the Rams. Sorry, I'll take the Seahawks. I'm gonna go 21-17. Russell Wilson is playing with one of the worst defenses in the NFL history. In terms of value, he's more valuable than any player in the league. in terms of to his team, because this team's nowhere near the playoffs without Russell Wilson. He threw 40 tubs and 4,000 yards, and he did have some interceptions and was leading the MVP race. And the reason he was leading it early is because of all what he was dealing with everything. The Rams lost the Jets, and that makes me think that this is just going to be too much. This is going to be too challenging for them. I think they'll keep it close because both of these teams, in terms of skill level, I don't think are too far apart. But again, I'm taking Russell Wilson because I'm just going to take the team with the best quarterback. And Pete Carroll is a Hall of Fame coach, and Sean McVay hasn't really been the same since that Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Russell Wilson Seahawks to beat the Rams.
All right, very good. So I do think there's one more. What's the last match that day? Hang on. Sorry. I think it's out of the NFC, maybe.
Is it the Tampa game?
All right, so oh, yeah, Washington and Tampa Bay. Who you got?
This one's difficult for me because obviously Tampa has the better team, but teams that have gone to the playoffs with a less than 10 wins have a 7-1 record in the wild card round. So I think Washington has a chance. They had a chance until Chase Young said those things about Tom Brady. And now because of that and because of that alone, I think the Bucs are going to win. I'm going to say they're going to win. I don't know, man. I want this to be close because of Alex Smith, and I want this to be a good game and all that stuff. I think the Bucs win 23-10. Just because Tom Brady's not the same as he was. You can say that. That's fine. But he also did throw for 40 touchdowns, and he also is, in terms of the playoff quarterback, he's the best there is. And I think Tom Brady can turn it on for a month and absolutely ball out. So I'm gonna take Tampa Bay to beat the Washington football team.
Yeah, I love Chase Young.
Yeah, it was just
he's
stupid.
Gonna learn. He's gonna learn Saturday, and I hate to say it, he's gonna learn. You don't talk to the GOAT like that, and this is what makes Brady the GOAT in all sports, even more than Michael and some of the other guys, even more than Leo.
Yeah,
it's like Michael's turned it off, Leo's turned it off. When you disrespect Tom, though, there just seems to be that little extra. You know what I mean? That not even LeBron can find. That little extra anger and passion that he plays with. So I got Tampa Bay coming out there and winning 45-7.
The thing here, I have a question about this though. If the Bucs are just so much better, but Chase gets to Tom a couple times and forces a fumble, is his not his comments, but is the way he came out is it justified if he balls out even if they lose? Because he doesn't play both sides.
He has to single-handedly help them win this game and back it up.
What if he picks off Tom and forces a fumble and scores a touchdown, but they lose? The problem is the Bucs are a better team, so it's impossible for him to outwin this outright. But if he balls out, I think you can kind of look back on it and say, okay, he probably shouldn't have said that. He just got his ass kicked, but it was you could understand it though because he did play well.
Yeah, I'll give him that. If he plays well, I'll say it, but then I'll still call him an idiot if they lose.
Yeah, same.
For making those comments.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, man, I don't know. I don't want to call, because I love Chase Young.
Yo, he's great.
But, I'm like, man, would have never, ever, ever said that.
Yeah, if he said that about Ryan Tannehill or something, that's fine. But you don't say that about the GOAT. You just don't.
Yeah. All right. Now to the next Sunday, correct?
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Apologies.
I can get it on my phone as well, so you don't have to keep.
I know who's playing who. I just want to make sure we get the games in order.
I have them in order on my phone. We're good. So the next is that's all the games on Saturday. On Sunday the 10th, it starts with the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans.
Look, I know the sexy pick is the Ravens here,
Yeah.
and I know that the Titans' defense is atrocious, but Derrick Henry can win a game single-handedly.
I don't know. This is a hard one.
And that's why I'm picking the Titans 27-20.
All right. I love Lamar Jackson. People may not know that because obviously my guy is Josh Allen. I boast about him all the time. I love Lamar Jackson. I love the way he plays. I love everything about him. I think I like his attitude. I like his leadership. I think he's an outstanding quarterback. So I think he does just enough, but I don't think it's in a cakewalk, and I don't think he'll have a dominant performance. I'm gonna take the Ravens to win this. I'm gonna say 33-28. Lamar has to get it going early for this to happen. If he struggles early or he throws an early interception, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to bounce back from that. But I'm just gonna put my faith in Lamar Jackson and hope to see him have a improved performance in the playoffs.
I mean, okay, so if he loses, he's always going to get a bunch of scrutiny. But
He already is.
You think
Go ahead.
Do you think the scrutiny's fair?
So if he loses and plays well, then it wouldn't be. If he plays bad again, that'd be his third playoff game in a row where he's played horrific. Again, you would if Patrick Mahomes, for example, I know he's got a Super Bowl and MVP and all that stuff. If he went 0-3 in the playoffs with how good he is and how great he is in the regular season, we kill him. So we have to treat other quarterbacks with the same mentality. So if he does play poorly and they lose, then the scrutiny will be fair. If he plays well and they lose, then you can start looking at other areas. But again, if he needs to play well in this game, there's no excuse now because he's had two really bad playoff games. He has to show up. And you can say if he doesn't turn it over against Titans, they still probably don't win. But he needs to play clean football and not turn it over. And if he does that, I think he'll get criticized because he's 0-3. But I think it would be harsh to call him a choker or something like that.
Why do you think, and I know it's just 2 games, why do you think he looks like a stud in the regular season and Ryan Leaf in the playoffs?
That's hard. I don't know. It's hard to say because he's been great in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he for whatever reason it struggles. I don't know if it's stress or if it's nervousness or he just finds it a little difficult with the lights on. But in college, he did rip up some games, but he also had underperformed in some big moments in big games. A lot of people think he dropped in the draft because of the dual threat and they didn't know if he was going to be a running back or a quarterback or whatever. Obviously a quarterback, but I think part of the reason he dropped was because of he played for Louisville. I get that, but he's not always played well in the big games, and that goes from college to the pros. But then he's played great in some big regular season games. So it's really hard to say. I think it's just a mental thing for him. And maybe if he loses again, he has to change something about the way his routine or the way he thinks about things or just his mental approach, just because we know he's got the talent to do it. But then again, you can look at other quarterbacks who are glorified in the media who've struggled. Since Rodgers' Super Bowl, they're 6-7. So it's not just Lamar Jackson, and it's not like he's got an outlier case. There are other teams. Manning struggled in the playoffs. So I just think it's going to – if he doesn't win this one, there's going to be a lot of criticism. But once he gets it going in the playoffs, then I really think that there's something to be said about that. But he'll be crushed in the media if he doesn't win it. He can win one game. That's all it's really going to take. He needs to get that monkey off the back, because once he gets that first playoff victory, then the pressure will just not be on him as much anymore.
And even if you look at, and it's totally unfair, because if you look at like Peyton, his first couple of playoff games were total crap.
Yeah, they were terrible.
And the funny thing is about the playoffs, it's like, you can be like a great playoff performer. Like, look at Favre, for example, and only have one ring.
Yeah.
And Peyton Manning, and yeah, Favre was a great playoff performer. I know he threw a lot of interception, but the dude was a monster.
Yeah.
And Peyton Manning, total crap in the playoffs, but ends up with more rings than Favre. You know?
Yeah, and then if you look at Brady's past 2 playoff games, he's been pretty bad as well. So there's a lot of big time players that have struggled in the playoffs, and then you have guys who, like Flacco and Flacco and Eli, who will probably get into the Hall of Fame just based on the fact that they've played well in the playoffs.
I don't think Flacco's getting in at all.
No, I know. The Flacco's probably not, but Eli probably is. And my point here is he's an average quarterback that got hot in the playoffs, but he's a great playoff quarterback. Where on the other side of things, it's just so it's going to take some time. But once he gets it, and all of these big time players have struggled in the quarterback in the playoffs, and then some irrelevant fools have done really well in the playoffs. So it's really hard to say what the issue is, but I think there's a good possibility that the Titans can beat them. But for the sake of Lamar Jackson, I hope that he's able to get us his first playoff victory. They're probably going home after that, but that's just my consensus of sort of the best chance of sort of killing that narrative is to win right here, right now.
Can I give you my crazy prediction?
Yeah.
And I only think the Titans have a chance of winning because of Derrick Henry. The Ravens win, they might go to the Super Bowl. They look like they're like on that big much of a hot streak right now.
Yeah.
But I just think they got matched up with the wrong team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right. What's game 2 on Sunday?
All right. Game 2 on Sunday is the Chicago Bears and New Orleans Saints.
I mean, okay, so people are going to laugh. No, I'm not picking the Bears to win. I'm not. The Bears have a Super Bowl defense. Breeze is an old man, but the Saints also have a Super Bowl defense. So the Saints are going to win like 17-14. It's going to be close throughout. It's going to be an ugly game of football. I think Mac's going to rough up Breeze, rough up the old man, but there's no way the Saints lose this. I mean, there's no way. I mean, you didn't have to agree. I mean, look, it's Mitchell Trubisky.
I get that though, but they're deep. You know what? There's gonna be an upset one of these games. I'm just taking a plunge. I think Breeze has been hurt this year. He's been good, but he's not been his normal self. If Matt gets to him early, I think I'm just gonna do it because I think there's an argument that the Bears can win this playoff game. I think the Saints are the better team, but I'm gonna say the Bears actually win this, and I'm gonna say 13-10. And the reason is their defense is impeccable, and I think their running game is a little underrated. And if they can get it going on the ground, then Mitch doesn't have to do too much. And I understand that Breeze has Michael Thomas and Alvin McCarr and all these guys and all these weapons and Sean Payton. But this is in Chicago, right? Or New Orleans?
No, it's New Orleans.
Fuck. All right. Because my entire argument was because it was going to be at Soldier Field. I can't do it there. I'm going to take the Saints to win 21-14. If the game was in Chicago, I would have picked the Bears to beat them because I think the Bears can do enough. But in the Superdome, it's going to be impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, 12-4 versus 8-8. I do get what you're saying, though. I mean, Montgomery's the most underrated run back in the league.
Yeah, probably.
For the Bears. Nobody talks about him. I mean, he is their whole offense. And if Trubisky wins this game, okay, how can you, Elliot? I know you hate him. How can you cut him or not name him a starter next year?
No, I mean, this is the confusion. I don't hate Trubisky. I was just right about Trubisky, and I was rubbing it in everyone's face. If he goes out and proves me wrong, fair play to him. If he wins a playoff game, he's a starter next year. Because here's the problem with the Bears. The Bears cannot. They're not making a change unless they get a franchise quarterback or draft a quarterback. They're probably not high enough in the draft to draft a quarterback, which means they're going to be with Trubisky for another year, which may not be a good thing. But if he wins a playoff game, they'll give him the job. And again, I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's average at best. He can be above average when he uses his legs, because that's something I actually do like. And I think he has good leadership intangibles. But all things considered, I do think that Mitch would be the starter next year, regardless, even if he loses this game, because there's not a quarterback that's hitting the market this season, unless they let Dak Prescott walk or something. Then I would consider trying to get Dak Prescott to beat to the Bears or something like that. Cam will be available. I don't think the Bears will be interested in that. So it's either draft a quarterback, get a free agent, or you stick with Mitch. And I think regardless of the result, even if they lose 44-0, I still think you have to stick with Mitch, because they're not high up in the draft to get one of these quarterbacks who I think are actually going to be decent in the NFL. And there's not a lot of free agent value at that position. So you're going to be stuck with him another year. But I think he's in a contract year. So they're going to have some big decisions to make, because they can't give him franchise quarterback money for someone they're going to hang on to for only another year. They'd have to franchise tag him or something like that. But I think, considering where Mitch is as a quarterback, I think he would be okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. I just can't. Man, I'd go for Matt Ryan with that defense.
I would too, but he's not a free agent.
Everything in place to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I'm talking about a trade. I mean, here's my thing. Would you be willing to risk, if you're the Bears, with that defense and Allen Robinson and Montgomery and all those guys and Nagy, who we both agree is a decent coach?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to risk like 2 or 3 first-round picks for Matt Ryan to go for it? I mean, you're literally that piece away. I mean, you're a second-tier quarterback away from competing for a Super Bowl.
I would have to give multiple first-round picks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for that chance. But look at that defense.
I get that. But that's a lot of draft capital. I would do it for multiple picks, but I can't give up more than 1 first-round pick if I'm doing that trade, because they did this with Khalil Mack, and I understand they didn't have the quarterback situation settled, but it's just a calculated risk. And if you go back to the Khalil Mack trade, which has worked good individually for Mack and the Bears, but they've been average pretty much across the board since pulling off the trade. They made the playoffs
Twice.
Yeah, I don't know.
They made the playoffs twice.
It's a lot to risk, though. I'm just concerned, because if for whatever reason, okay, this is the reason I push back. If you give up 3 first-round picks, Matt Ryan, you get him there, he makes the playoffs, and then year 2 he breaks his leg and can't play for 2 years. Then you have no first-round picks to use over the next 2 years. I just think it's a calculated risk. I understand why they would do it. I just think it's a lot to risk, and you can get someone else who can be adequate, better than what you have, for less than multiple first-round picks. You could get Matt Stafford for a third, or something. You get him for less, and I'm not saying Matt Ryan is worse than Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is obviously a little lesser of the two, but you could get Matt Stafford for a smaller avalanche of picks. Where if you're getting Matt Ryan, giving up potentially your future. With Matt Stafford, you could get a deal done without sacrificing your entire future. And I know Matt Ryan's better, but I think Matt Stafford with that defense can play well enough at the position to win them a Super Bowl. But I'm not willing to give multiple picks for Matt Ryan, because then you can look at other options that are closer in terms of ability, with having to give up a lesser amount.
All right, so let's keep going into this conversation. Would you be willing to risk taking on Carson Wentz's absurd contract?
What would I have to give up to get him? Just like a fourth round pick?
Couple
or something?
seconds.
Yeah, why not? I understand he's got a massive contract, but there's no question he has the ability to do it, and to be in a he needs a new situation where he can go out there and perform. So Carson Wentz, I think, again, his football awareness and that part of his game is one of starting quarterbacks that have ability. Is one of the worst I've seen. He kind of has the deer in the headlights thing going in terms of his surroundings. But he's super talented, and unfortunately, I don't think that's something he can change about his game. I think you can, if you get it done for a short amount of time or a short amount of picks, second round pick, a third round pick, something like that, then you get it done. You have yourself something. Carson Wentz is talented enough to get the job done for the Chicago Bears in that position. Again, with Matt Ryan, you have to give up a whole bunch of stuff. With Carson Wentz, you have to take on that big contract. So what I'm really saying is I think Matt Stafford trying to get him in, although the Bears and Lions probably wouldn't make a trade because of the division thing, but I still would try to get Matt Stafford for even a little higher than his value. But Carson Wentz, I would be willing to do that. I'd be more willing to do that because of his age and even with his big contract. I think he can do really well with the Bears. But again, I think the Colts are the most likely destination for Carson Wentz.
All right. So now it's the biggest game, the one everybody's been looking forward to. Without their head coach, the Cleveland Browns. Did you ever think we'd see it, first of all? And second of all, are they going to beat the Steelers even without Stefanski?
Baker Mayfield masterclass incoming.
Wow.
I know logic is telling me not to pick the Browns, but you have to remember, I could list all the things I don't like about Baker Mayfield. I think he's the perfect quarterback for that team. I think he's a franchise quarterback. He's not an all-pro, he's not a Pro Bowler, but he's a decent quarterback. And I think he's improved a lot lately. His entire career, he had to transfer from Oklahoma. From I forgot where it was. Texas A&M to Oklahoma.
Texas Tech,
rather. He walked on at Oklahoma, won the job, won the Heisman, chip on his shoulder. First Heisman Trophy winner to ever be a walk-on. He goes into the Cleveland situation. He's the backup quarterback. He doesn't have a shot at winning the job early. Then he has a horrible season. Everyone's writing him off. Yada yada yada. He gets a new coach. And then he stopped trying to be he stopped trying to be the best quarterback, trying to be the best quarterback in the league. He played it safe. And he does turn it over. He's all in those spots. But if he relies on the run game, plays a clean game of football, Baker Mayfield, I feel like, just thrives in these situations where others may not, because his entire life he's been second guessed and told that he's not good enough. He's too small. He's too this. He's too that. And I'm not a big fan of Baker Mayfield personally. I think he's a good quarterback. But everything says the Steelers is going to win this game because of the coach situation. But I just think stuff like this is going to get Baker Mayfield fired up. And I think against the odds, I think the Cleveland Browns will win their first playoff game in a long time. I have them winning 28-20. And the reason I'm not picking the Steelers is they barely played anybody decent the whole season. I understand the record. Big Ben, I think he's going to throw a pick in this game, and I think it could be an important moment. He turns the ball over too much. So does Baker Mayfield, and I understand the defense, but they have that run game in Cleveland, and I don't know. A lot of these picks seem logical, but not all the favorites are going to win. There's going to be an upset. And if I'm putting my stake into one of these upsets happening, I would say it's the Cleveland-Pittsburgh one, basically because Baker Mayfield's past to being second-guessed and overlooked. They have no coach, and Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to use this information and use what's happening here to overpower what is to most people, incredibly unlikely for them to win. So I actually do have the Browns winning and beating the Steelers and going to the divisional round.
Wow. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem, though. I think there's a little disrespect to Mike Tomlin with that pick.
Oh, that's true. I know Mike Tomlin's great, and he's a Hall of Fame coach. But I don't know. There's something that's I'm trying to – it's resisting me for picking the Steelers because it's just Baker Mayfield's entire life. They've always said he's too this, he's too that, he's too arrogant, he's not a franchise quarterback, he's not a leader. And this situation happening right here, right now, no coach, Cleveland doesn't have a shot. I think this is a game where Baker Mayfield just going to figure out a way to win this game. And it's not to say Mike Tomlin isn't capable. I think the matchup is between Mike Tomlin and Baker Mayfield because I think it's going to come down to his leadership and his ability to play clean football rather than him having to be the superhero. And again, I feel like Big Ben is going to turn the ball over in this game. He will be. I think Tomlin will outcoach whoever the Cleveland backup is. But again, I just think they have the ability to pull this off. And I know a lot of people think they're just going to wipe the floor with because of the coach situation, but I don't know. For the first time and probably the last time, I'm putting my faith in Baker Mayfield. So don't let me down, buddy.
Actually, I'm picking the Browns too, but for a completely different reason. I think as long as the Browns can run the ball effectively, which it proves they can, keep it away from Big Ben, and Big Ben will make that costly turnover. I have the Browns winning 20-17. And all of Cleveland going absolutely bananas because they beat the Steelers in the playoff game.
Because I went back and forth about this the last couple of days, and I just came with the conclusion that I think the Browns can actually do this. And the scenes are going to be incredible.
And I'm kind of hoping it happens too. And let me explain to you all this story. So my best friend in the world, my girlfriend, who will soon in hopefully about a year, depending on COVID, of course, be my wife, is from Cleveland, Ohio. So, for the sake of her family and their sanity and the long sufferingness that they have experienced, I hope they get to see this.
Yeah, for sure. Do you know the
All right, mate.
Are we just doing the one round at a time, or are we doing the whole thing right now?
We're just doing wild card, and after it, we will go.
Okay, I got you.
So look out, folks, next Tuesday, hopefully. Tuesday, me and Ellie will have the review of the games and our picks for next week. But before we go, we still got a little bit of show left, probably about another 15, 20 minutes at least.
Let's go.
It is time for the Gurus NFL awards and explanations.
So are we just going to – okay. So you tell me –
I have a list right –
Yeah, you give me the list and I'll give you the thing.
I have a whole list right here for you, my friend.
All right, let's go.
All right. Worst NFL coach of the year. Who gets your
Adam Gase. I mean, no, actually. You would think I would say that. I don't know, man. I'm torn between two. I'm gonna say Mike McCarthy, right? He went into the situation. He said, "I've been learning about the new NFL, yada yada yada." And then what does he do? He shows up and puts up stinkers on a regular basis. Jason Garrett is going to get an opportunity to get another job, and it was his defense that the Giants had that helped the Dallas Cowboys not make the playoffs. I understand that Mike McCarthy lost their Pro Bowl quarterback, Dak Prescott. They lost some other pieces. I understand all that. But his coaching decisions, just his coaching in general, has been absolutely horrific. The difference is the Jets were supposed to be terrible and were the most likely destination for Mr. Trevor Lawrence. The Cowboys were at least supposed to be a fighting chance of making the playoffs, and they were, even though technically they were horrific. So Mike McCarthy for me is the worst coach or the donkey of the year, whatever.
All right. Rookie of the year. Offense.
I mean, it really is Justin Herbert, but there's been some really good rookies. This would have been a lot more difficult if Joe Burrow didn't get injured, because regardless of what people think, I think statistically speaking, they would have been at a similar stature in terms of touchdowns and yards. So I think it would have been a lot closer. I think it would have been one of the closest rookie races in years, but he got injured and it sort of killed that. And then Justin Herbert balled out, 31 touchdowns. And I think he's been unbelievable. He's just been incredible. And you can give it to Justin Jefferson, but because he's had the most receiving yards from a rookie ever, I think. And he was number 3 in the year in rushing in the league. But I'm going to give it to Justin Herbert just because he's been absolutely outstanding.
All right, so defense.
Defensive player of the year.
For rookies.
I'll go Chase Young. I think he's been what he is what they paid for. He wasn't as explosive his first year as Bosa was, but I think he's still been absolutely incredible. I think he was been the rookie of the month the last couple of months. He was totally worth that number 2 pick. If Cincinnati didn't have the number 1 pick, I'm pretty sure Washington would have taken him at number 2 or still number 1. I think that was their guy all the way through. And before he gets absolutely torched this weekend by Tom Brady, he was absolutely outstanding prior to that.
Yep. Who wins your comeback player of the year award?
Alex
And
Smith,
also,
obviously.
Before you say that, not only why does Alex Smith win your comeback player of the year award, and why should the NFL rename the award to the Alex Smith comeback player of the year award?
Well, first 17 surgery, almost died. He came back and led Washington to the divisional crown or a division title. The reason I think it, and this is probably not something that's being brought up enough in my opinion, he was crazy for coming back to begin with. So even if he only played 1 snap, he would have got it for me because he could have he almost died, and that was a traumatic thing for him. Then he decided, I'm going to go back to the thing that almost led to my death. And he loves football, and I respect Alex Smith. And it's just that's why. It's just like the risks of him going back and even playing was ridiculous. If I was his age and I was a professional NFL player and I'm 30s and my team's not very good, I'm not coming back because it could have been – you could die because of what happened before that. So 1, for coming back. For 2, I think he's absolutely crazy for coming back. But the fact that he did all that, then won a divisional crown for the Washington football team, there's nothing else that needs to be said. This not only should be the comeback player of the year, but it should be the award name forever.
And I do want to say something. He can never be called a bust. He has now led 3 teams to the playoffs.
No, he never was. He was a bust for like a year. After his first year was terrible. After that, he basically went up every year, and he beat Drew Brees in the playoffs with San Francisco. He won to the playoffs a whole bunch.
Can I make a comment on him? He got my first playoff win in my lifetime being a Chiefs fan. He was the starting quarterback. I will always love that man.
What game was it?
Beat the Texans like 31-0.
Oh, was that Bill O'Brien's Texans?
Yeah, but still, it doesn't matter, man. It was a good feeling.
I know. No. It's not. I wasn't just grading it. It was just like when I hear 31-0, I'm just assuming that Bill O'Brien was the other coach.
Yeah, look, he's not a Hall of Famer, obviously. Everybody knows that. But was he a bust? Absolutely not. Was he a very good NFL quarterback?
He's in the Hall of Very Good.
I don't even think he's in the Hall of Very Good. I think he's the Hall of a reliable starter that will win you games and not make mistakes.
What about Jeff Garcia level? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, that's probably Alex Smith's level.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. What a story. I love Alex Smith. He'll always be in my top 5 favorite Chiefs just because we were abysmal before him and Andy Reid got there.
Yeah.
He helped turn us around. He mentored Patrick Mahomes. I love that man. And if I ever see him out of public, his dinner and alcohol bill is on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, Alex Smith. I agree with you. Now we're gonna do things a little bit different here. We're not gonna give out we're gonna give out the MVP now. I mean, not the MVP now. We're gonna give out the league's best player now because me and Ellie have a theory. The MVP is not always the MVP because if you wanted to give the actual MVP out this year, the actual MVP would be Josh Allen. We all know he's not going to win it, but let's be honest. Without him, Bills would not be 13-3. They'd probably still make the playoffs because that division's average, but they wouldn't be 13-3. Yeah, it's obviously Josh Allen, but who gets your best player of the year award? Because there is a difference.
I don't like this because I'm always bringing up all the things that he always comes up short in the playoffs. I've said it 1,000 times. In the history of the NFC Championship game, he is the worst combined stat of any quarterback to ever play in that game. I hate it, but I had to say Aaron Rodgers because he's been absolutely outstanding. If you take away the Tampa game, he's been pretty spectacular. And again, it's the same thing with the Steelers. There hasn't been that many great opponents that they've gone through. But I mean, his stats are ridiculous. He took the Jordan Love drafting thing as motivation and absolutely ripped it up this year. I think he's become a better leader than he has in the past. Yeah, so I think it goes to Aaron Rodgers. But I don't think that he's the most valuable player in the league. But as far as the best player of the year, I think in terms of who had the best season, I think is Aaron Rodgers. And I don't dislike Aaron Rodgers, but he's not one of those guys who I don't know. There's just quarterbacks I like more, but you can't take away the season he had because he was absolutely spectacular. But so that would be me. If I was going to pick a runner-up, I would go Derrick Henry. But my player of the season would be Aaron Rodgers.
All right, very good. So if you had to look, who, in all seriousness, I mean, the obvious choice is Stefanski from the Browns. But if you really had to look at it, because I know you look at things differently, who is your NFL head coach of the year? And if it's Stefanski, I totally get why. But who is the Guru's NFL head coach of the year?
It's actually not. Stefanski, I thought about there are two other people I thought about. Thought about McDermott and Stefanski. My NFL coach of the year his team didn't make the playoffs. I'm going Brian Flores. If you think with Miami, if you think of what he has done to the Dolphins since being named head coach, that was one of the worst teams in the league last year, but they played hard and he had to deal with the whole he made some tough decisions with Fitzpatrick going to Tua, then back to Fitzpatrick. And I think they were so close to making the playoffs. And this is a really good football team. He made a trade with Houston a few years ago. Now he has their first round pick in the top 5 with a team that almost made the playoffs. Brian Flores has done so much for that organization, and he's the one coach from Bill Belichick's coaching tree that is just absolutely outstanding. And I understand he didn't make the playoffs, but if you just look at what he has done in Miami this year and last year for where they are now, it's amazing. They went through an entire transformation from the point where they were one of the worst teams in the league, and then became a team that almost made the playoffs. And I understand the Bills ripped him apart in the last game, but I put that more on Tua than the coaching. He's easily one of the best coaches in the league, and he didn't make the playoffs. And I understand Stefanski got the Browns to the playoffs for the first time in ever. But for me, it'd be Brian Flores, and I think the Miami Dolphins will likely make the playoffs next year.
Are the Miami Dolphins on their way to winning the Super Bowl with him?
Yeah, I mean, look, if he gets, and I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to stick with Tua? Is he going to ride with Fitzmagic for another year? If they get a franchise quarterback, then I think he's well on his way to be doing all that stuff. But again, I think he's a great coach. I think he's phenomenal. His team is going to only progressively get better. I think you have to give Tua another chance. But again, if you're sitting at 5 and you have one of these other quarterbacks, either Trey Lance or Justin Fields, if there's one guy that can kill the whole Ohio State quarterbacks can't play narrative, I think it's Brian Flores. So if he's there at 5, I think about it if I'm him or the GM. But if he gets,
I think they're 4. They're drafting 4, so
yeah,
very well could be.
Yeah, I think it's impossible for him to go up and get Trevor because I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have been waiting for a savior, and now they got one. So I don't think they'll even field any calls for that pick because of how good he's going to be. But I would also say that that you just never know. But I think if he gets a franchise quarterback, again, it could be Tua. I've seen enough to know that I don't think it's him. But again, if he just gets some upgrades in some different areas, I think they're going to be absolutely outstanding.
All right, last one. MVP.
So we're talking about the most valuable player?
Yep.
All right. I'm actually going to go with – I love Russell Wilson, and I think pretty much on a year in, year out basis, he is the most valuable player because this team is nothing without him. And their defense is horrific, and I understand they have some Pro Bowlers over there. He's throwing to Metcalf and Lockett, and they have good pieces around. But personally, if I'm giving an MVP to someone, I'm giving it to Kyler Murray because I understand they have the DeAndre Hopkins. I understand that they have a decent team, and Kingsbury's been a better coach than I thought he was going to be, especially with his lackadaisical college resume. But without Kyler Murray, I just don't know what this team would be, if anything. This team would be a team pretty much drafting in the top 5. If you took just a random quarterback, like I'm just going to use Case Keenum, for example. If you just threw Case Keenum on the Cardinals, I don't think they're making the playoffs and I know they didn't make the playoffs. I just don't think that without this, Kyler Murray is a Pro Bowler and he deserved it. And he does so much in terms of running the ball and passing the ball. Kind of a little bit. He's one of the few quarterbacks who does both things very well, kind of like Josh Allen, but just not as good. But Kyler is something special, and I think without Kyler Murray on the Cardinals, I don't think they make the playoffs. And here's another thing: if they got to the playoffs, I think he would have won. I would have given him the Player of the Season as well, just because considering what he's working with, and I know he has Hopkins and Fitzgerald and stuff, but like still. Top to bottom, that's not a great football team. It's a bad football team with some individual super like really good individual players, and that's different than being a good football team. And Kyler just elevates everything they do on a week out basis. And what I like about him is he throws a pick. He doesn't get torn down or anything. He goes back out there and tries to perform and plays and progressively improves as the game goes on. He's got a short-term memory and. Again, I'm pretty sure nobody thinks he's the most valuable player in the league, but I literally do because other than Russell, because of all this stuff. It's just without him, they would be nowhere near where they are. And, you can talk about all these other quarterbacks that are often thrown into this, and a lot of them have like a better team top back to front. Arizona should have finished bottom in this division, probably just based on the team that they had without Kyler Murray. And with Kyler, they were knocking on the door of the playoffs. So I'd actually say Kyler Murray over Russell Wilson. Only in this case, though, because I think Russell's also very much involved in this conversation, as well as Derrick Henry and others. But this season, I'm going with Kyler.
All right. Very good. Very good, mate. Well, that's all for our show today. We'll be back on Tuesday.
Right.
I do have one more comment to make.
Yeah.
No matter your political views, no matter who you voted for in this election, please quit being idiots.
Yeah.
What we saw yesterday was absolutely shameful. It's a black eye in this country. Just don't be an asshole. If you voted Republican, accept the fact your candidate lost and try to put a decent person there in the next 4 years. when it's up. And if you go to Democrat, be happy your candidate won. And just everybody be nice to each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna. After the election results came out, I posted a video. And I'm just gonna paraphrase, but my point was, and this is so ironic because the context of my video, people did the exact opposite. So my thing is saying, basically, my point was, if you voted for Trump and he lost, just accept it. If Biden won, accept it. And then the other thing is just be nice to people, be kind, live a positive life that you want to, be nice to other people, be kind and loving people, and don't let the effect of the results of the election determine how you are as a human being. And I feel like what we saw yesterday.
It's what's happening.
Yeah, if you saw it yesterday, it's the polar opposite. And most people know I'm not interested in politics. I only talk about politics with very specific people, just because it just gets testy too early, and people make accusations and narratives based on certain points of view, and I just don't. I think politics in general is somewhat of a poisonous conversation. It can be, at least. So I don't like talking about it, but yesterday what happened was totally unavoidable because it was everywhere, and I was just so disappointed in terms of just accept the results are the results. If you think it was a fraudulent election, you think it's a fraudulent. If you think it was fair play, then it's fair play. But what we saw yesterday should never happen ever. So I just think the whole thing is ridiculous, and politically, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I do have one more statement to make. It's not a political statement. You got tested.
Yeah.
I work at a school. Wear a damn mask.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. You can speak from experience. You had your mask on when you met up with those people. You got tested and came back negative.
Yeah.
It does work. Wear a mask, and you will not be sick. That's all. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. When I got it, or I didn't get it, but when I was potentially could have got it, I was outside and my mask was on the entire time, and I was with my dad, and my dad didn't get his symptoms until much later, but it was the same day, so I had to get tested for a safety precaution. But I always wear a mask, so it's just you just have to. And it's just people just being stupid are being stupid sometimes, and it just anyway, I just think you should wear a mask. I think this is a problem right now. It will end eventually. It's not like it's going to be 2035 and we're still dealing with COVID. It's every pandemic that's ever hit the world has ended.
Like a 2 or 3 year lifespan.
Yeah. So there's some people thinking this is like the end of the world or something. I understand that it's a concerning thing, but it will change. But until it changes, until it's a little bit more back to normal, just follow the rules and we'll get there faster. Because if we don't wear our masks or things like that, it's just going to take a longer time for this thing to die off. And so just put your mask on and just be patient, because eventually this thing is going to end. I don't know when it is, but it will end eventually. It's not going to be here forever. And I think just follow the rules and we'll get to the conclusion of this much quicker.
Yep. And if you wear a mask, the more likely it is that next September you'll be able to be with 70,000 of your closest friends in an NFL game.
And if you're a football fan, a soccer fan, get a mask with your logo on it, like to spice it up a little bit or whatever.
Oh, I have my Arsenal masks.
I bought a Roma mask, but by mistake it sent me a mask with the Atlanta Falcons logo on it. So,
all right.
I don't wear it that much, but I don't have a quote unquote NFL team, but anyway, it's cooler than like having nothing on there.
Get something cool on there. Get a comic book character, your sports team, but wear a mask.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the games on Saturday and Sunday. Also, Roma better beat Inter this weekend. That'd be absolutely a good laugh at many Inter fans. I still love you, Danielle, but Forza Roma. Roma will always have a special place in my heart. And go Colts.
Forza Roma.